How's it going, everybody? I'm out here at the Carroll, Michigan sugar factory, and I am going to run down, I'd like to say a brief, but it's quite lengthy, history on how this all started and where Carroll came about. If you're interested in anything that I am saying, and it's all public, I have the link to the Michigan Sugar website, will be attached in the bottom afterwards. You're welcome to check it out yourself, dig a little deeper than I am, but for now, I want to get into it and let you enjoy everything this drone is seeing up there. So again, this is the history of Michigan Sugar at michigansugar.com. Locally grown and locally owned. In start, the death of the lumbering industry in the late 1800s helped to bring about the birth of the sugar beet industry to Saginaw Valley's farming and food processing economies. After loggers had cleared the pine forests in the area, the land was virtually unusable due to the massive expanse of tree stumps left behind. State and local leaders were searching for a substitute for the jobs and money generated by now departed lumber barons. A solution was needed that could be replenished each year, bringing a stabilizing influence on the economic base of the region. Enter the sugar beet. In 1839, Lucius Lyon, a potato grower, decided that he could transfer his talents to the planting of the sugar beet. His growing project was successful, but the manufacturing system was not. Interest in the sugar beet was not revived until 1884, when Joseph Seaman, a Saginaw printer, happened to see how well the sugar beet was doing for the people in a region of Germany that he had visited. Another trip convinced him to send a sample of the seeds to his partner, who forwarded them to Dr. Robert C. Kedzie, a professor of chemistry at Michigan State Agricultural College, now called MSU. Dr. Kedzie's enthusiasm for the beet's potential in the region earned him the title. He imported 1,500 pounds of seeds from France and distributed them from farmers to farmers across Michigan. The success of the planting helped encourage people to clear the stumps and better utilize valuable acreage. Funds were raised by boiler manufacturer Harry T. Wicks, Thomas A. Harvey, and a grain merchant, George B. Morley, to underwrite beet growing tests. Innovations to farmers for seed and instructions were issued. This resulted in bringing samples of beets from 600 farms to Dr. Kedzie's lab. 3 crops of beets, he said, grown in 3 successive years, are worth as much as 1 crop of trees, which requires 100 years to mature. Suddenly, the switch from trees to beets brought the stumplands back into productivity. Michigan legislature passed a bill. In 1897, the Michigan legislature passed a bill offering the beet processors a bounty of 1 cent per pound of sugar produced in Michigan from Michigan-grown sugar beets, provided that the farmers received at least $4 per ton for beets of 12% sugar. The Businessmen's Committee settled on Bay City as the locale for Michigan's Pioneer Factory. As a result, the Pioneer Michigan Sugar Company was organized on December 9, 1897. The stock subscription list was closed, and some subscriptions even had to be returned. The factory was built in the Bay City suburb of Essexville. The state's first beet sugar campaign. On October 17, 1898, a smiling Governor Hazen B. Pingree was on hand to officially begin the state's first beet sugar campaign. The first processing season in the state's history was, by every account, a remarkable success. Farmers harvested an average of 10.3 tons of beets from each of 3,103 acres for a total of 32,047 tons of sugar beets. The farmers were paid an average of $4.51 per ton of beets, an amount that immediately classified sugar beets as premier cash crop. The investors were delighted. No crop in human history had held the potential for creating such a high return from so few acres. A farmer with above average ability who placed 15 acres in sugar beets could earn $900. If his family provided the bulk of the labor, the net profit would more than take care of a family's needs for a year. After adding revenue from crops and rotations such as wheat, corn, and beans, the revenues from milk, eggs, and poultry, the farm family's standards of living advanced from a subsistence level to one that compared favorably to those who held mid-management positions in industry. Sugar beets established their reputation as a mortgage payer. Recognition by the U.S. Department of Agriculture in 1898 of the importance of the sugar beet industry, combined with the success of the plant, sparked rapid development. 1 year earlier, the nation had only 10 beet. The construction of 7 more in 1898 developed into a boom in 1900 when the nationwide count stood at 30 beet factories in 11 states. Factories built following Essexville's successful experiment. In 1899, 8 factories followed Essexville's successful experiment in Michigan. The new factories were in Holland, Kalamazoo, Rochester, Benton Harbor, Alma, West Bay City, Cairo, and a second factory in Essexville. Despite the lack of factory builders and the engineers to operate them, 14 additional factories rose on the outskirts of Michigan towns from Marine City to Charlevoix during the next 6 years. The Bay City factory, built in 1901 and named the German-American Sugar Company, which later evolved to the Monitor Sugar Company, was the fourth in the city, giving it more beet sugar factories than any other city in America. In 1905, the Michigan beet sugar manufacturing industry began to encounter difficult times. 7 factories had closed, most often because farmers turned indifferent to the appeals of factory representatives to grow beets. With a combined daily slice capacity of nearly 11,000 tons remained in business, however. More sugar beet companies would have gone under had not H.O. Havemeyer's powerful and experienced American Sugar Refining Company stepped in and provided a helping hand. American Sugar, sensing the profit possibilities of the Michigan beet sugar industry, bought a substantial stock interest in many of the local companies and gave them the benefit of technical and financial assistance they so badly needed. 6 companies to form the Michigan Sugar Company. In 1906, Havemeyer promoted the idea of merging 6 of the local companies in which his firm had a stock interest into one single company. This was achieved when Alma Sugar Company and others merged and formed Michigan Sugar Company on August 20th, 1906. Michigan Sugar added 2 additional factories in 1924 to its corporate roster when the beet sugar factories in Owasso and Lansing joined the company. In 1948, the Michigan Sugar acquired Mount Pleasant factory. Only 2 of the original 24 companies remained. With the closing in 1954 of 3 factories, Menominee, Blissfield, and St. Louis, only 2 of the original 24 companies remained. One was Michigan Sugar Company that was then operating 4 of the 9 factories it had acquired, Carroll, Carlton, Croswell, and Sebewaing. The other was Monitor Sugar Company's single factory in Bay City, which from the late 1960s to the early 1980s was under the leadership of Charles Coryell, whose family held controlling interest in the company. In 1961, an opportunity presented itself to Albert Flegenheimer to become a majority shareholder in Michigan Sugar Company, as the Pitcairn Company was looking to sell its stock interest in the company. Later that year, his son Ernest joined his father and was subsequently elected to the board of directors. By 1962, Ernest was second vice president of Michigan Sugar Company. Following year, Albert stepped into the role of chairman of the board of directors while Ernest was elected president and treasurer. The Flegenheimers not only wanted to lead Michigan Sugar Company, they wanted to improve it. This included attending hearings on legislative matters pertaining to the sugar industry and inspecting other sugar beet fields and factories, not only in the U.S., as far away as Belgium. From these research expeditions, they developed more efficient ways to run the factories. Starting in the mid-1980s and continuing for the next 20 years, the two remaining companies were involved in a series of acquisitions and mergers. Monitor Sugar Company was acquired in 1982 by Barlow Rand, Johannesburg, South Africa in June of 1984. Michigan Sugar Company was acquired by Savannah Foods and Industries of Savannah, Georgia, the second largest company in the sugar industry. In 1985, Michigan Sugar acquired Northern Ohio Sugar Company with a plant in Fremont, Ohio, and a distribution facility. This new wholly owned subsidiary was named Great Lakes Sugar Company. In 1997, Imperial Sugar Company of Sugar Land, Texas made a highly leveraged acquisition of Savannah Foods and Industries and its subsidiaries. On January 16, 2001, Imperial Sugar and all of its subsidiaries, unable to pay its massive debt, filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. As a part of the bankruptcy restructuring, Michigan Sugar Company's growers were approached by Imperial Sugar offering MSC for sale. The board of directors of Great Lakes Sugar Beet Growers Association formed a grower-owned, cooperated, and contracted to purchase Michigan Sugar Company from February 12, 2002. In 2004, Monitor Sugar Company was offered for sale by its parent company, Ilovo Sugar Company of Durban, South Africa. The Monitor Sugar Beet Growers Association initially hoped to acquire the company, much in the same manner the Michigan Sugar Growers purchased that company from Imperial Sugar Company 2 years earlier. However, careful analysis suggested a different route. Monitor's growers and Michigan Sugar Company joined forces and bought the Bay City factory on October 1st, 2004. Now the two companies, who for most of the 20th century viewed each other as fierce competitors, were one grower-owned cooperative, Michigan Sugar Company. Today, Michigan Sugar Company is the only remaining sugar company in the state. It is the third largest in the U.S. It has nearly 900 grower owners, 980 year-round employees, and 1,100 seasonal workers. It generates more than $500 million in direct economic activity annually in the local communities in which it operates. Its combined factories have a beet slicing capacity of 22,000 tons per day and the ability to produce more than 1.2 billion pounds of sugar each year, which it markets under the Pioneer Sugar and Big Chief Sugar brand names. As it was more than a century ago, Michigan Sugar Company is once again locally grown and locally owned. To who provided this information, all I have is that it is on the Michigan Sugar. I don't seem to see who wrote the article, so I apologize in that regards, but I do hope that you appreciated a look at it and an insight into how Cairo became one of the remaining cities to the sugar beets. Regardless of the fantastic smell we get every time we come into the city and every time the wind blows away, it is cool to think that Cairo is one of the surviving factories. With that, I will end it. I appreciate everyone who checked it out, and I'll catch you in the